Hello everybody, welcome to Season 2 of Southern Soul. I'm Tony Morris, your host. Now if you're just joining us for the first time, you're probably asking yourself, why is the show called Southern Soul? And it's not just because I'm wearing a sweatshirt that says Southern. Southern's because originally I'm from Alabama. And the soul part is because, guess what folks, I'm a psychic medium. And on the show Southern Soul, we'll talk not only about, some aspects of my job, but we'll also be taking different topics as it relates to spirituality and, say, metaphysics, and break it down and have some fun with it. Now, this is our second season. Some of you may have joined us for our first season. We did 9 episodes. And you might have joined us for, say, the Singing in the Shower episode, where we discussed just how important singing in the shower can help you grow as an individual. Just don't want to hear too much of my singing, trust me. Josh Groban has nothing to worry about. Or perhaps you remembered the show where we talked about the pineal gland. Yes, that's right. All of us, every single one of us has a pineal gland. It's actually in the top of our brain. It's an actual organ. And it secretes the enzyme that allows us to have dreams, out-of-body experiences, insights, psychic awareness. So that was a great episode to do too. Maybe you joined us for the Christmas episode, where I shared a very personal story about something that truly changed my life. Let's see, what else? Or maybe you joined us for the episode called Mystic Movies, where we recapped a number of different favorite movies that had spiritual themes. I even brought along some popcorn for that one. So like I said, we're on to Season 2 now of Southern Soul. Now just because it's Season 2 doesn't mean we're not going to have a lot of firsts. For example, we've got new theme music that you probably heard at the beginning of the show. Here in the studio, we've even got new equipment. Very proud of our great technology here at the studio. We're going to be discussing some new topics in the world of spirituality. And we're going to have some new guests. For example, today's guest is environmental scientist Patrick Mobley, and you'll be meeting him in just a second. Now, one of the things that we always do on Southern Soul is we take questions from our viewers. We truly appreciate our viewers tuning in. So anytime you've got a question, be sure and send it. So let's take those questions right now. I've got the questions. Okay, number 1. What spiritual insights can you share regarding the reconciliation of a wounded relationship? Well, think about it. Sometimes a relationship can be so damaged that it may not need to be mended, meaning that maybe it's time to move on. This can happen not only with, say, marriages that are crumbling, or it could be with friendships that have had their best times already. So don't feel like just because you're in a relationship that is so bad or so torn up that you have to save it. Sometimes the way in which you can save yourself is to move on. Now, when relationships have fragments that can be repaired, that's a different story. But what it really takes is for someone to take the initiative to make the first step. Because if someone doesn't make that first step to try to fix the situation, then you're going to be continuing the same cycle. It'll just continue that way. Don't expect it to heal overnight, because it certainly took a long time for the relationship to become in that state. But if you take the initiative to get it started, you will see some healing results over a period of time. Okay? Second question. Is there a better time during a given day when your psychic abilities are stronger? Oh, I love that question. The other day, I did 7 sessions back to back. And one of the people that I did, one of my clients, she actually asked me, is there a time of day when your psychic awareness, say, is stronger? And to be honest with you, not really. And I know we all have our moments during the day when we're, up and ready. Whether it's, some people are not morning people, some people are. Some people are night owls, some people aren't. So with me, what I just try to practice regarding my psychic work is to take breaks between the sessions and everything, just to kind of clear my head, to get recharged. It's just really about keeping the balance and, like I said, keeping refreshed. Do you receive spiritual messages from the environment? Oh, yes. Think about it. Everything is energy. Everything. And the environment certainly is just chock full of all kinds of energy. Whether it's water, the oceans, the mountains, the stones, everything feeds off energy and certain vibrations. So I really, whenever, like I say, when I go hiking or whatever, I really do pay attention to my surroundings. First of all, I'm very grateful. That word cannot come out of my mouth enough. Whether I'm walking by the ocean or walking by a river, anytime I'm out in nature, I'm always saying, I'm so grateful, because I can feel that energy. I attract it, and also it just makes me a stronger person. So certainly, yes. And the environment communicates with us as well, meaning like it receives, and there is an exchange of energy between us and the environment. For example, this was two years ago, May, 2 years ago, I went on a great road trip, and I wound up in the Oregon woods, some great forest in Oregon. And I was so fascinated with the nature, I took a lot of pictures. And in those pictures, whenever I finally had them developed, there were spiritual orbs. That's right, spiritual orbs in the pictures. So don't tell me that the environment doesn't try to communicate with us as well. Now, I mentioned on the show earlier that we have a special guest today. And it's quite appropriate that that question about the environment leads us into our special guest, Patrick Mobley. He's an environmental scientist, and today we're going to talk about spirituality and our environment. Who loves to go hiking? Well, you know what? Even if you don't like to go hiking, everybody loves nature, right? You can't argue with nature. Everybody has a soft spot for nature. And today we're going to talk about the environment, specifically spirituality and the environment. And I first met our special guest today, Patrick Mobley, on a hiking trip, a 12-mile hiking trip. And since then, we've gone on some other hiking expeditions. So I'm very happy to introduce to our audience of Southern Soul our special guest, Patrick Mobley, environmental scientist. Thanks for coming today.
Oh, thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah. Now, let's start off with just a basic question,
Sure.
if you don't mind, because I'm curious. What inspired you to become an environmental scientist?
Well, Tony, ever since I was a little boy, I was very inquisitive. I wanted to learn more about the world around us. How does a mountain come about? What's an earthquake? Where does water come from? How does it turn to cloud, rain? Just things around us. And I loved animals, and I loved human beings. And I was very interested in finding out more about human body at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So I decided to go to medical school. So my undergrad had to do with pre-med, and then I applied to medical schools, and I was going for my interviews, and I was getting exception. I was becoming accepted to some of these medical schools, but at the same time, I was questioning my goal in this world, and I realized that helping human as an MD or as a doctor is all great and everything, but humans have a voice pretty much. If something hurts, they shout, they yell, they know what to do, they go to doctors. But it's the environment that doesn't have a voice. Or sometimes it does have a voice, but as human beings, we tend to ignore that. And this is the world that we inhabit. We're here for a period of time, then we have to leave, and we have to give it back to our offsprings, next generations. So I decided that it's best if we just take care of the environment, and it would be a better goal for me to become an environmental scientist so I can help out the environment.
Yeah. I love what you said when you mentioned, humans, we have a voice, but the environment, not necessarily so. And the environment needs champions to watch out for it. Would you say that taking care of the planet is something in which we can all participate?
Oh, definitely.
Not just environmental scientists, right?
I think just like the way you take care of your house, I take care of my house, my car, my possessions. Earth is the most important place because without it, we simply cannot survive. So it's a responsibility that we all have to share as a human being, not just me as environmental scientist, but all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd hate for people to say, well, I'm not an environmental scientist, so I don't feel like I have to do it. But I think it's everybody's job, right?
It's not just my job.
Yeah.
It's just something we all have to share.
This question, since you are a scientist and you've got all this formal education background and this on-the-job training, what are the key scientific factors associated in your eyes with the environment? What would be the key scientific factors with the environment?
If I'm understanding you correctly, you're asking me about my perspective on what we need to be more protective of?
From a scientific point of view.
Well, there are things that we need to do to protect the environment, and there are things that we need to stop from doing.
Okay.
We are introducing a lot of contaminants like plastic, dangerous chemicals to the environment, and the environment simply cannot get rid of these at the rate that we are introducing these to the environment. Our landfill are being full, and we have no other place. We cannot go inhabit another planet.
Right.
And then we need to worry about our natural resources. The water is a commodity that we take for granted. If we run out of water, we simply cannot survive. Clean air is something that we all need to have, and it's our responsibility to make sure that the air is clean, our environment is clean, our natural resources are not being consumed, and that we are keeping Earth clean.
Yeah. And again, those are scientific factors, but they're not limited to a scientist. It's something we all need to pay attention to, right?
Right. I see kids now recycling, and they tell their parents, "Oh, Mom, that shouldn't go there. You can just go in the blue bin."
Yeah,
or,
that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that was the scientific. I want to switch gears a little bit. What do you believe would be the spiritual aspects of the environment?
Well, Tony, I believe that there's a balance in the environment. It's a balance that has always been there. Nature knows how to take care of itself. There's this energy, there's this relationship in the ecosystem, the way that different environments interrelate and they coexist. You have the birds, you have the trees, you have the bees and how they pollinate and things decompose. Carbon goes around in different cycles. We never lose anything because everything gets recycled in the environment. And the spirituality of it is that we need to preserve this balance. This balance has been there for many years. It's going to continue to be there. And as inhabitants, we need to be very mindful of this balance and make sure that this balance is not disrupted or disturbed.
Yeah. Do you, when you're in nature, because like I said earlier, we've been on some hikes together and, watch out for that poison oak or watch out for that poison ivy or, that's kind of a steep climb or whatever. But don't you feel some kind of inspiration when you're in nature, that makes you feel either grateful or inspired or anything like that?
I love it. I love being out there in nature. It's not man-made. It's something that has been created for us, and it's just simply beautiful. It may not be this big structure or Disneyland, Wonderland, but it's just so amazing to me that I can go out there and become part of nature and exist at the same time with other organisms.
Yeah.
And interact. I love that.
Yeah, it's so amazing. I mean, seriously, sometimes I'll go on hikes and I will talk to a rock just because I feel like I'm connected to it, or like if you see a wild animal, it's like, oh my gosh, how cool is that? We're all here together. My next question is, how do science and spirituality blend together in regards to the environment? I mean, how do they, like you used the word earlier, balance. How do they kind of blend together?
Well, this balance is going to exist, and science does its best to find answer to a lot of questions about the environment.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a marriage of science and nature together that helps human beings become better adapted to the environment. We have to live in this environment. If it's cold, we need to make sure that we are adapted to that. In a hotter climate, we need to be better adapted to that. We pretty much inhabit everywhere. Mm-hmm. on planet Earth, but as certain living organisms, they can only live in certain area because of temperature, resources, food, air, water. But as human beings, because we are everywhere, we're constantly meddling with this balance. So I feel that it's our job to make sure that we can coexist with other living organisms and not diminish our natural resources and just take care of the Earth for the next generations.
Right. And that's a big, tall order, but I think it's something we should all be signing up for, being a participant. Now, I know I asked you, some questions about your job and about, the basics between science and spiritual and how they blend together in regards to the environment. But the last question I just want to ask you is just what would be your most personal comments as it relates to your own experiences with nature or the environment? I mean, what does it mean to you, and what do you get out of it, and not necessarily your job, but just you as a person?
Well, I find it very rewarding that I'm doing something positive to be protective of human health and environment. There's an educational aspect of it by me talking to people.
That's right, you're a public speaker. You do a lot of public speaking.
I do talk to the communities. I do talk to higher academia. I talk about the environment, how we are abusing the environment, what steps we can take to make sure that our footprints are not being left forever. If I can share a personal story with you.
I'd love it. Yeah.
I was giving a lecture at USC about our landfill, of how in the American culture we just love to buy and buy and buy, and then we have to throw things away. And I'm just amazed that we have this public storage, as though we don't have enough place in our house, in our garages, that we have to rent and pay for these spaces just so we can put stuff in there. And another thing, and then I was thinking that a lot of these items just become waste without us even using it. So at the same time, I was thinking about my cell phone. And I made a promise in front of everyone that I was going to keep my cell phone for as long as I could, as long as it's continuing to serve all its intended purpose, which for me was pretty much talking and texting at a time because I had a flip-flop phone. And I ended up keeping it for almost 6 years.
Wow, you need to get a medal for that.
I did, and Tony, it was difficult. I wanted to have a smartphone so I can do things, go online, go on internet, Facebook, whatever.
Right.
And I wasn't able to do that. The only thing I could do was talk and send texts. And I kept it till it got to the point that it was sending texts to the wrong people. And the funny thing is, it was switching between small and capital letters.
Oh, no.
But it was my promise, and I had to keep the promise, because if I don't have conviction in my own words, how can I expect the community and other people to take the environment seriously? And sadly, the phone finally just dropped dead, and I ended up getting rid of it. It's going to landfill, unfortunately, but at least I did my part.
There you go, yeah.
And I kept it as long as I could.
Good for him. And see, and that may seem like something very small, but if you look in the totality, if everybody were to do something as impactful as that, what a difference it truly would make. Yeah, I hear you. I mean, I can do things like that as well. Like whether it's, no lie, just last night I was wearing a an old t-shirt around the house that I've had for 26 years. Now granted, it's full of holes, but it's one of my favorite t-shirts and I wear it around the house and I'm not gonna get rid of it until I absolutely have to. It'll probably disintegrate before I get rid of it, right?
It doesn't seem like it has that many days left.
It doesn't, it really doesn't. Well, Patrick, I really want to thank you for coming on the show today. Do you have anything else you want to add? Because this has just been so enlightening to not only me, but to our viewing audience as well.
And I wanted to end by just saying that I believe in the goodness of people. I believe that our kids are learning a lot about the environment, preserving the environment, and I feel like I'm doing my job in making sure that future generation can take care of the earth for the following generations. And I'm just very happy about that.
Okay. When are we going on our next hike?
As soon as you're ready.
I need to get a new hiking shirt, don't I?
Oh, definitely. Good thing you said that.
Oh, wow.
I hope it doesn't replace the one with the holes, but I was going to present this to you, so the next time you go hiking, you have a nice hiking shirt.
Oh, thank you. And look, we'll match.
Right.
We'll be like hiking twins. So watch out for us, wilderness. We're coming your way. Again, Patrick, thanks so much for being our guest. It really meant a lot to me that you joined us today. And thank you, viewers, for joining in. We still got one more segment of Southern Soul, so stay tuned. Thanks again, Patrick, for being our special guest today on Southern Soul. I know that every viewer watching found that segment very enlightening and very educational, and I might add, very inspiring. I'm going to ask our viewers to really pay attention to this next segment too. This is my favorite part of the show. It's called the Little Red Wagon segment. Think about it. Your little red wagon was probably your first toy when you were growing up. And, you know, we put our dreams, we put our aspirations, you know, we put what we wanted to accomplish in our lives in our little red wagon. And we take it with us throughout our lives. Now, sometimes, you know, the wheels fall off or we maybe misplace the little red wagon, but it's always there. It's always an integral part of our lives. So always count on your little red wagon. So in today's episode of Southern Soul, what I'm asking the viewers to consider doing, especially as it relates to our environment, is to make some commitments. Think about it. The environment is our responsibility. You don't have to be an environmental scientist like Patrick, or you don't have to work for, say, the National Park Service, or, you know, the state parks, county parks, even your local parks and recreation department to have a part in taking care of the environment. It's all of our responsibilities, like Patrick mentioned. So in today's Little Red Wagon segment, what I'm asking again for the viewers to consider doing is to take a sheet of paper. This is very simple. Take a sheet of paper and write down 3 things. 3 things that you can do to help take care of the environment, to help take care of Mother Earth. They can range from anything. Something as simple as starting a recycling program, picking up litter, being more considerate of, you know, when you go on a hiking trip, if you see debris in the wilderness, pick it up. Take care of it. Because deep down, we all know the real truth here. If we take care of our earth, Earth will take care of us. Thanks so much for watching this latest episode of Southern Soul. Like I said, we're in our 2nd season, and I'm so glad you tuned in. In the meantime, keep rolling. you.